welcome. Today we are going to talk about post-colonial feminism, how the intersections of power, gender and resistance takes place in this post-colonial feminism. To begin with, it the emerging from the intersection of post-colonial studies and feminist theory, post-colonial feminism seeks to understand the complex interplay between gender, race, class, and colonialism. So, through giving a platform to women's stories and perspectives from areas that have been colonized, and this theoretical framework questions the Eurocentric views of feminism. Its overarching goal is to dismantle the colonial era power hierarchies, the metropolis that continue to shape gender roles and identities today. So, going on to the historical context of colonial feminism, gender roles and women's agency in cultures that were once colonized are examined critically in post-colonial feminism. Patriarchal systems, which were frequently imposed by colonial powers, undermined the status of indigenous women and altered long-established gender norms. So these feminists draw attention to the ways in which colonialism controlled the bodies and labor of women in addition to exploiting the resources of their lands, thus maintaining gender inequality. So who are the key figures? Chandra Talpale Mohanty, she is a prominent academician, made a name for herself through her writings on post-colonial feminist praxis and intersectionality. Her essay under Western Eyes, Feminist Scholarship and Colonial Discourses is important essay which is challenging the idea on third world women as helpless victims and calls for a more complex view that takes into account local action and diversity. Next is our Gayatri Spivak, Chakraborty Spivak. She has popularized the term strategic essentialism that delves into the knotty issues of agency and representation in post-colonial settings. And in her essay, Can Subalterns Speak? Can the Subaltern Speak? She is arguing that the subaltern's perspective needs to be better understood by critiquing the way Western academic discourse appropriates voices from marginalized groups. Next is bell hooks. She bell hooks. She is more commonly linked to black feminism in the US, and her works on gender, race, and class overlap strongly with post-colonial feminist issues. Her writings question the accepted wisdom and highlight the need for unity among oppressed communities around the world. She says, I quote, I will not have my life narrowed down. I will not bow down to somebody else's whim or to someone else's ignorance, unquote. Next is Audre Lorde, feminist theorist, and she has made significant contributions to our understanding of how gender, sexuality, class, race intersect with one another. And she stresses in her writings the significance of recognizing and fighting the many forms of oppression that women, especially women of color, endure in both post-colonial and Western societies. Next is Leela Gandhi, an eminent figure in post-colonial theory. She also investigates on how feminism and post-colonialism overlap, arguing for a critical position that takes into account the nuanced dynamics of power and resistance in both colonial and post-colonial context. Feminist researcher who has explored the intersections between post-colonial feminist theory and the study of emotions, affect, and queer phenomenology. Ahmed also delves into the impact of emotions and effective economics on power dynamics in her writings, providing valuable perspectives on resistance, solidarity in feminist and post-colonial frameworks. Moving on to the intersectionality and identity. Feminism is the concept of intersectionality, which refers to the interrelatedness of many social categories as they pertain to a certain person or group. And from this vantage point, it is very clear that women's identities and their environments in which they reside shape their experiences of oppression. As an example, white women in Western countries may not encounter the same kind of obstacles as women of color in post-colonial settings. Moving on to the resistance and agency. The strength and defiance displayed by women in these situations are lauded by post-colonial feminism, and through political activity, cultural resurgence, and grassroots movement, it explores how women overcome repressive systems. Women in post-colonial nations demonstrate agency and combat patriarchal narratives that uphold their subjugation by recovering their histories and cultural identities. The tendency of Western feminism to generalize about women's experiences around the world is one of the main points of criticism and contention from post-colonial feminism. And to better understand the multifaceted nature of gendered oppression in various historical and cultural settings, post-colonial feminists call from a broader and more heterogeneous feminist discourse. So all throughout the globe, distinct feminist movements are being urged to stand together and work together by this critique. So what are the future directions for post-colonial feminism? As new oppressions arise and global dynamics change, post-colonial feminism adapts and develops. And is still an important framework for thinking about and doing something about how gender, resistance, and power interact in post-colonial society. So this complex lived realities of women in various post-colonial settings will be better understood, and new avenues for achieving social equality and justice will be investigated in the forthcoming studies in this area. And to conclude with, post-colonial feminism with this post-colonial feminism provides a comprehensive and dynamic structure that questions prevailing narratives, amplifies voices of marginalized groups, and promotes unity amongst feminist movements worldwide. Also, by prioritizing the perspectives and narratives of women from formerly colonized areas, it lays the foundation for a future that is more comprehensive and fair. These are few references you can go through for better understanding of the post-colonial feminism. Again, we are going with the next video. Till then, happy learning all of you.